What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken, and today, guys, we are talking about True Lies on 4K. Oh boy, I can't wait to talk about True Lies on 4K. But all jokes aside, this is a movie, this is a release that I have been talking about on this channel in some capacity pretty much since I started the channel, pretty much since I started doing the Physical Media Report. Every single Monday, people would bring up wanting True Lies on 4K. When's True Lies coming to 4K? We had some rumors a few years ago that it was coming to 4K. Then those went away, came back again. And look, I know this has been going on for way longer than I've even had a channel. This goes back to the Blu-ray days, guys. People wanted True Lies on Blu-ray, and it almost came, and then it didn't come. And there's just been so much, involved with the release and putting this out on an HD format and now UHD format that it's just become almost a running joke in the physical media community. It's like, are we going to get True Lies on 4K? Is James Cameron ever going to get off of his ass and quit directing the Blue People movie to give us the James Cameron 4Ks, to give us True Lies on 4K? And you know what? It finally happened in 2024. 30 years after this film's release, 25 years after we got the last official home video release on DVD. This came out in 1999. We have True Lies on 4K. Look, I'm not going to lie, guys. This is a very intimidating release for me to tackle here today. There's a lot going into this movie, to this 4K release right now. I'm seeing a lot of bickering. Guys, look, I don't consider myself a professional AV quality review channel, 4K review channel. There are people that have already done reviews of True Lies on a technical level that can really break down the specs and just everything that went into the making of this 4K and just really give you a lot of behind the scenes knowledge and context. That is not this channel. I love talking about physical media. I love talking about collecting. But if you want a professional review of this movie on 4K, you're in the wrong spot. We will talk about the picture quality. I feel like I have an adequate setup to talk about picture quality. I've got a new LG OLED C2. I've got a sound bar that's pretty nice. It simulates that 7.1, which this does have as far as the audio goes, and the 5.1. But I don't have the big elaborate system and setup. So I want everybody to know that I don't consider myself to be a professional 4K review critic on this channel, but I do feel like I understand enough about it and the basics to really kind of, give my thoughts and perspective on it from a very mid-level perspective. That's the name of the channel, guys. But anyway, I also do not watch anybody else's reviews. I want to know as little as possible going into these types of releases, these 4K movies, Blu-rays. If I know I'm going to talk about it, if I know I'm going to review it, I don't like to watch anybody else's reviews, but I'd be lying if I said it's hard to block out the chatter, the online chatter. I'm in the social media world. I see people's posts. I see the comment section when I post something, people complaining about certain things. But all that being said, I haven't watched anybody's reviews, and I don't know exactly what people are saying about this as far as like reviewers go, but I know that there's a lot of bickering online over these. And I will say that True Lies is the one that I'm seeing the most chatter and the most bickering about online. So I think that this is the one that people are saying is the worst of the three Cameron movies on 4K. Of course, we've got Aliens and The Abyss. I will review those as I get them. I'm very late in reviewing this because Amazon didn't send this one to me on time. I had to wait till this past Sunday to get it, and I kind of just took my time because I'm already late to the party talking about these. So I watched this a couple of nights ago. I watched the documentary that is included here, which is a brand new documentary, which was really cool, this morning. And now I'm ready to talk about True Lies on 4K. Let me talk about the movie for a second. So this may be controversial, and I may ruffle some feathers. I almost said feathers here, but I don't think that True Lies is the greatest action movie of all time. I don't even think it's the greatest action movie of the 90s. Hell, I don't even think it's the greatest action movie of 1994. I would give that to Speed, which is one of my all-time favorite action films. But True Lies is very fun. It's a very fun action spy espionage comedy film. And I think that James Cameron does fuse all of those elements very well together in this movie to create and craft a very enjoyable action movie experience. I also think that Arnold Schwarzenegger is fantastic in this movie, as he usually is in everything. And Schwarzenegger, guys, he could do the action, but when they figured out that Arnold could actually be funny as well, they started utilizing that much more in the 90s with movies like Kindergarten Cop and then True Lies and then Jingle All the Way as well. And when he fully dialed into that comedy mixed with the action, like, he was just unstoppable as a comedic action performer in the 90s. So just a great star in this movie, great person to lead this type of film. I just think he balances everything very perfectly. He does have that James Bond attitude as well in certain sequences, that swagger, that confidence, that charisma, which I do think really works. Jamie Lee Curtis is great in this film as the housewife that kind of dives into the world of spy espionage towards the end. She does a great job balancing both of those. Tom Arnold in this movie, I wasn't sure. I remember Tom Arnold being in this movie. It's been about 15 to 20 years since I've seen this film, guys. I remember Tom Arnold being in this movie, but I think that, and I was kind of thinking, okay, Tom Arnold's going to be like goofy comedic relief, and I think he's probably going to drag the movie down a little bit for me. Tom Arnold's actually excellent, and I think that he brings the comedy in all the right moments, and I think he injects his comedy in all the right ways, and I think he's just perfect in this movie as comedic relief. Who I think is not perfect in this movie is somebody that I love and is near and dear to my heart, and R.I.P. Bill Paxton, but I'm not a huge fan of Bill Paxton in this movie. I think all the sequences with Bill Paxton and Jamie Lee Curtis and the whole affair thing, I feel like that drags the movie down a little bit in the middle. So I don't enjoy the middle portion of this film. There are some great action sequences. The set piece on the horse and stuff is very cool. But where I think this movie really kicks it into gear is the last 45 minutes. I think is nonstop action, the bridge sequence, all that stuff. When he gets in the jet at the end to save his daughter, all that stuff, some incredible action sequences. So like the first hour and a half, I like a lot. But the last 45 minutes really elevate this film into just what I think a lot of people think of when they think of this movie being the greatest action film of all time, or one of them. So yeah, I like True Lies a lot, I guess. I like to talk about the movie, guys. Yes, we'll get into the specs and the 4K and all that stuff, but I like to give my thoughts on the film itself. And I don't really hear a lot of people talking about the actual movie. They're all just bickering about how it looks or whatever. But it's a good movie. I said this in my live stream the other night, but like as far as 90s action films for Schwarzenegger, I think I like Eraser just a little bit more. That's directed by Chuck Russell, who also did Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and The Blob and The Mask. I think his filmography is super underrated. If you haven't seen Eraser, definitely check that one out. I love Eraser. I think that one kind of flies under the radar. I would love to see that on 4K. But True Lies is very good. It's a very good movie, and it is one that I feel like this movie has been built up so much in the home video community, physical media community, because it hasn't gotten that proper HD treatment that it definitely deserved. And now I'm finally glad that it is on 4K. So speaking of the 4K, let's get into the 4K picture quality here. So this is a native 4K restoration with Dolby Vision, HDR10, supervised by the man, the myth, the legend himself, James Cameron. Now, I know that there was a lot that went into the 4K release of this, and I have heard there's been chatter in various spots that the negative wasn't in the best shape. So I think that that's important to take into account when you're talking about these 4K restorations, is you don't know, like we're not in the industry, we're not the studios, we're not the director, we don't know the materials these people are working with. Now, could they have done a better job of letting us know that? I think so. I shouldn't have to hear like online chatter and rumors behind the scenes to know what they were dealing with. Put that up front and center before we start it. And, a lot of the boutique labels do that. Arrow Video, Scream Factory and Umbrella and Second Sight. They like to let us know the inner workings of the restoration so we can better understand, the decisions that were made and what went into it. So with True Lies, guys, I will say, overall, I was happy with the 4K presentation here. And how I know that I ultimately enjoyed this transfer is if I'm thinking to myself in my head, okay, what are the options that we have to watch True Lies? We could watch it on streaming. There was a 4K a digital version which came out months ago, and that honestly played a huge factor, I think, into the negativity over this release and why people are a little skeptical of it, because they heard how, overly digitized and AI upscaling and all that kind of stuff that transfer was, which there are some problems with that here. We'll get to that in a second. But when I'm thinking about all the past releases that we have, which one would I rather watch? Like, if I'm going to watch True Lies going forward into the future, am I going to watch the DVD copy that came out in 1999? Probably not. Am I going to watch my bootleg Blu-ray copy from Sloppy Seconds? Probably not. This only looks slightly better than the DVD version. There is a Blu-ray in here. I've got it in the player back there. There is a Blu-ray in here, but the Blu-ray, guys, like I heard some people talk about this online. They're like, well, at least it has the Blu-ray. Like, if I don't want to watch the 4K, the Blu-ray's got a lot of the same problems, guys. It's still a little smooth, overly smooth, still a little too polished. Like, it's the same thing. It's a 4K scan, so all the same problems that you would have with the 4K, you're going to have with the Blu-ray as well. So don't think that, oh, we got the Blu-ray, you're safe. So the Blu-ray is in here, and you also have the 4K. But if I'm thinking to myself, which one am I going to watch going forward into the future? I'm going to watch the 4K every single time, and there is no question about that. I'm going to watch this 4K. Now, the issues here, guys, it's a really solid 4K presentation. My issues with it is, it does feel like they completely removed almost all of the film grain. Like, there doesn't seem to be any film grain left in this 4K at all. It is very polished. It is so smooth, so smooth. Now, I will say there's a difference to me between smoothness and waxiness. I don't think that, outside of maybe a couple scenes and sequences, there's a couple of sequences in here, guys, that look a little wonky, like almost like you're watching a video game cutscene at some points. But those scenes are few and far between. They're not every single scene. But the faces are extremely, extremely smooth. They're not waxy. This is not a T2 situation, but they're extremely smooth, and everything is just very smoothed over. But if you can get past that, 4K is supposed to be sharp. It's supposed to be a very sharp picture quality. And I think that this is extremely sharp, and I think you can notice every single detail, and that HDR does a lot to really bring out those colors and then bring them back to that natural state when it was first shot and the way it was intended to be seen. And there's a lot of outdoor sequences, a lot of outdoor action set piece moments. That bridge scene at the end, guys, looks spectacular in 4K. Like, there's a lot of action sequences that really look great in 4K, and I think that that's probably the big selling point for this release. It's a lot of the, smaller moments, the smaller, like, character interactions, the close up on the faces, the people talking. Those are the scenes that don't, I don't even want to say don't look the best, but people are going to have issues with those. People are going to have big issues with those because they are so cleaned up and there's almost no film grain left. Now, what I will say is I think that most people, 90% of people that buy this 4K are going to be happy with this 4K, because a lot of people, they want that out of their 4K. They want it to be super cleaned up, crystal clear, to look like a movie that was just filmed yesterday. A lot of people like that. A lot of people want that. But a lot of people that are really into this stuff, guys, like, and really into film, like, they want it to be restored to that original look that it was back in the day, and that includes the film grain, like, to highlight the film grain but not have it overpower and take away from the new picture that you're putting out. A lot of people want that in the physical media community, and the home video enthusiasts, and the film loving community. But I think most people are not going to have a problem with this 4K. It looks super sharp. It's very crystal clear, almost to a fault. It's very smooth. But yeah, I didn't have a big problem with it. I really didn't. I was kind of expecting that it would probably look that way. And I'm kind of expecting that Aliens is going to look that way and The Abyss is going to look like that way, because that's just what James Cameron likes. And like I said, I've heard the negative wasn't in the best shape, so maybe they had to replace certain things, and maybe they had to use the AI upscaling that everybody's talking about. Maybe they had no choice and they had to go into that kind of stuff. Again, we don't know what the decision was, what the process was to restore this movie in 4K. But guys, that being said, I get it. I get the frustrations that everybody has because this, I feel like, could have been a little bit better. I feel like it could have looked a little bit better. I think they went a little bit too far into making it look so polished, like so polished. They could have done something to make it look just a little bit more natural. I feel like maybe they couldn't. But I get people's frustrations, and this isn't the best that it could look, and we've been waiting for this release for such a long time. I get that people would be upset because we have been waiting for this for the longest time. It's probably, I would say, top 5 most anticipated home video releases of all time. I feel like just the fact that we've been waiting for this since probably 2009, 2010, all that anticipation has been built up, and people were just expecting the world. They were expecting one of the greatest 4Ks that they've ever seen, and that's not really what this is. But it is a solid upgrade, and I would watch it any day of the week over the Blu-ray, bootleg Blu-ray, or the DVD. So I think it's a good upgrade, and I think I'm glad to have it in the collection, but it's not perfect, and there are problems, and you need to understand that. But also at the same time, I can understand some of it. I can understand some of it, and I don't think it takes away from it too much. The scenes that really bother me are really few and far between. And I think overall it's good. It's solid. And for the price, guys, it's $24.96. It's not really that expensive, especially considering you get a new documentary here. I'll go ahead and talk about it real quick. Special features wise, you get a brand new documentary, Fear is Not an Option, a look back at True Lies. You got James Cameron in the documentary. You got Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I think that those are new interviews that they did with both of them. Now, they do insert in clips of Jamie Lee Curtis talking about the movie back in 2012, and also Bill Paxton talking about the movie back in 2012 as well. I don't know what those were shot for, but those were interviews that were back over 10 years ago. So maybe they shot those for a Blu-ray that they thought was going to come out back then, but it never released. So maybe they never released that footage. So it is new footage of them talking about the film, but they kind of splice it in with the newer footage of Arnold and James Cameron talking about the movie. And they go behind the scenes. They talk about some of the stunts. They talk about some of the big set piece moments of the movie. And it's a really cool documentary. And they talk about the making of this movie, how it was Arnold's idea, how it was a foreign film and it was based on a foreign film. And they brought it over here, and Arnold gave the idea to James Cameron, talking about the casting of Jamie Lee Curtis. And it's a really great documentary. And honestly, it's almost, I don't want to say it's worth the full price of admission, but it's almost worth the price of admission just to get this for that 45-minute documentary. And then you got a bunch of archival stuff that I'm pretty sure is probably on this DVD release. So I can't hate on Disney and James Cameron for giving us new special features, because how often do you see that out of studios? You don't. That's the answer. You rarely see that stuff out of studios, guys. But look, I'm not trying to be an apologist for True Lies on 4K, guys. I'm really not, but I always call it like I see it, and I just don't think the 4K restoration was terrible, and I don't think it was not worth doing. I think it could have done better. I just think that with James Cameron, sometimes his affinity for technology and just bringing everything into the future just kind of takes over him. And I don't think he's a fan of film grain. I don't think he wants to bring it back to that natural state that it was filmed in. I think he wants to advance it and make it look, in his mind, better than it ever has before. And I think some people definitely take exception of that. So I get it. But for my money, this is the best that it's ever looked. For me, I think it looks good. So I would recommend it. The audio is spectacular. I'm just listening to it on a soundbar. 7.1 Dolby Atmos. The fact they did that, awesome. They don't always do that on all these releases as well. And it sounded great. Again, just listening to it on the soundbar, but some of those sequences with the jet at the end and that bridge, that whole thing is just spectacular. It all sounds great. The score in this movie by Brad Fiedel, I think, is super underrated. It's a great score. It's not as good as the Terminator scores, but it's a great score for sure. And it sounds great with that Dolby Atmos. And I talked about the special features. The packaging, I don't I don't love the artwork on the cover, and to be honest, it looks a little digitized. It looks a little CGI right there. They really don't even look like the real versions of themselves in the movie. It actually looks better on the screen though when you pop it in, so I'll say that. And on the back right here, you got the helicopter's limo scene from the end. You got the synopsis, bonus features, kind of show that off as well. I may cut to an unboxing. I didn't remove this sticker. I heard some people saying they had a tough time getting this sticker off. I don't usually remove the stickers. I just keep them on there because it's a part of the release, and I'm just kind of nostalgic for those. I pull a Blu-ray off the shelf that I bought 10 years ago. It still has a sticker on. I'm just nostalgic for that kind of stuff, so I'll probably leave that sticker on. Look, guys, I can't really say, other than the fact that the 4K isn't perfect, I think every other aspect of this release is really rock solid. And the fact they included a new special feature, you got the movie on Blu-ray, you got it on 4K, you got it on, a digital code as well. Like, we just don't get that kind of stuff a lot with the studios. And it's only $24.96. It's not really a ton of money. And I do think it's an upgrade over the DVD 100%. Like, I don't see how anybody can think that that would rather watch the DVD over this. I would never get that. I'll be watching the 4K of this every time from now on. But thank you all so much for watching my review of True Lies. I know I went too long, very long-winded in my thoughts, but I wanted to make sure I got everything that I was thinking about this release out, and I wanted to give you all the honest truth about True Lies from my perspective, the mid-level perspective. But thank you all so much for watching my review. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, I will have Aliens on 4K. My review of that should be coming next week. And also The Abyss on 4K. I'll be talking about that one as well. And, turn on bell notifications for all future videos. And follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description. And we'll see you next time.